All right, I think we're live. So I'm gonna basically introduce myself for anybody who might be hopping in the stream a little later. Uh, a lot of these are watched after the fact, so I like to kind of let people know what they're getting into when they're chiming in on this stream. So hopefully my audio is okay and stuff like that. Sorry, my mic was kind of moving for a second. Okay, so let me explain a little bit about myself and what this stream is. So I'm Joshua Kemble. I've been a professional illustrator and graphic designer for about 10 to, did I just say 10? To over 15 years. I've also been a professional art director for over 7 years. And when I'm not working on commercial art, I tend to do this art for art's sake stuff, which is graphic novels. In the vein of like Daniel Klaus and Chris Ware and like kind of like the more indie side of comic books. So anyhow, I have some comic books out. So if you enjoy these streams, usually I'll work on art and stuff while I'm doing these streams. But if you enjoy these streams, there's a couple ways you can support. One is as I'm streaming, I take super chats, which are much appreciated. So that would be cool if you guys want to kick in and kind of support that. And I'll tend to read anyone's comment that's a super chat out loud, as long as it's not like degrading to other people and is respectful of other people. That being said, I have some comics out. So I have this book, Jacob's Apartment, which is a graphic novel about Jacob, who is a teetotaler, a Christian. He doesn't drink. But he's going through some struggles because of his father basically dying of cancer. And as his father's dying of cancer, he's starting to question his identity and question his faith and his belief in God. And in the meantime, he also has a roommate named Sarah, who is this character here. And Sarah is sort of the polar opposite of Jacob. She's like more of a free spirit, an atheist, and is basically reeling from a past broken relationship with a professor of hers who moved to New York to become an editor for a major publisher. And she's trying to kind of fill this like void with a lot of one night stands and kind of questioning her identity. And as they're kind of going through these identity changing young adult kind of moments, they end up finding commonality and find themselves drawn to each other. So it's sort of like a doomed romance story where interlocking dreams and lives kind of start weaving together and making these kind of trippy dream sequences with stuffed animals from their childhoods and underwater swimming sequences. It's a really cool book that I'm very proud of that Graphic Mundi is going to be releasing in June, but you can support my work and support what this is and kind of check it out at graphicmundi.org. You can also ask any local bookstore chain to kind of order this and make that happen. And I just noticed that like there was a weird flash of light, so hopefully that won't be an issue. But anyhow, as you can see, it's like 130 something pages of full color graphic novel. Jake's joining in the chats. How's it going, Jake? If you want to hop on, feel free to let me know, and I'll send you a link. Okay, so one more plug to get out of the way before I do what I want to do during the stream, which is at minimum, I want to ink this panel, and I'm going to have a hard out at like 2 in the morning. So hopefully I'll be able to go to bed before then, but we'll see. But I want to ink this panel. But before I can get into inking and drawing with you guys, I want to talk about my other books. So there's 2 stories, which is my graphic novel about faith and mental illness. It's a memoir that sort of talks about growing up as a geek and basically at a Christian school and sort of feeling isolated as a kid. And it has those sequences done in one style, which is like this more kind of like what I like to call like a messed up Mary Blair style, and then a more kind of realistic style, dealing with the struggles of adulthood and sort of dealing with manic depression, as well as panic disorder and anxiety. And so, so this is a book that's out right now from Marcosia. You can get this at a lot of indie-friendly bookshops. You can ask like an indie-friendly bookstore to order this or carry it. It's available distributed through Ingram. But if they aren't able to do that, I also recommend, and you want to save some cash or get some like free shipping, and you have Amazon Prime, I really recommend you guys order this through Amazon Prime. And so this book kind of ends halfway through the story. It has a somewhat resolution, but now I'm working on book 2, which is basically what I'll be working on as we speak. So, and then Frank's joining in the chats too. Frank, I don't know if you have a late day, but if you want to hop on the chats or hop in the stream, feel free. I can send you a link. Just let me know. And then Jake said he wants me to send him a link. So let me go ahead and send that. Hang on 1 second. Oh, and then Philip said he stopped by to say hi. Philip, it's awesome to see you. Let me see. So I'm giving Frank a link. And then Jake as well. Cool. So we might be joined by Jake and Frank as well. Philip, I hope everything's going well for you, buddy. And then full disclosure, if I seem kind of sleepy during this stream, it's been a crazy busy weekend. We had this big art meetup yesterday. I met with a lot of the art casters, which is the show that I do with Scott Cirkland and Corey Kerr. Scott happened to be in California. He drove down to Southern California, and then Scott Cirkland actually drove all the way from Arizona, and then Jim Lujan and Jeremy Burley and Ken Mora and like a lot of people that have been guests on Artcasters. We all kind of met up, had coffee, like long, wonderful conversations. Because Lujan was there, it was hilarious. As anybody who's watched like Jim on a interview, he's like that in person. Jim is just like, I mean, you will laugh so hard it makes you feel like you're going to spit out a lung when you're hanging out with him. So yeah, it was a really fun meetup, and it was exciting and invigorating and made me really inspired to work on more art, which is why I like those kind of things. Like art meetups, I think I'd recommend them to like almost anyone who's an artist, is like make friends with artists, build art communities, do online art communities like the stream or Artcasters. And it'll give you that like extra gasoline when you're needing to fill your creative tank or whatever. Whenever Frank gives me the thumbs up, I'll put him on. I think he might be preparing some goggles possibly at this point. Who knows? Okay, here we go. And we got Frank. How's it going, Frank?
Good. I was finishing coloring some pages for the Captain Goggles and Magical Man comic. I'm almost done. I just need 4 more pages to finish coloring.
Hell yeah, that's awesome, Frank. And then Philip was saying it's been a long day and I'm really tired. Yeah, me too. It took a lot of willpower for me because today I had to make up for missing yesterday because I was like doing an art meetup thing with all the guys. And then today was just like recuperating because I literally got home at like 2 a.m. And then like basically just penciling all day. So I tried to get this page penciled. And now I'm going to try to like ink at least one panel, but just and I also had to do my exercise today. So it was like a lot of like over and Frank, I know you probably relate to this, but it's like anytime I'm about to do anything positive, I usually get faced with just tons of resistance, like where I just don't want to do it. And so
Yeah.
like it was a lot of like those coming up as like options to just kind of cop out and not get what I need to get done. And then me like overriding it. So even the stream right now is like for me like an act of just being like, no. I'm gonna do my panel and I'm also gonna stream even though I'm exhausted. so so that's how we're all kind of hanging today. That's cool though, Frank. That's awesome that you're like really close to finished.
Yeah.
Nice.
And I got most of them. I think I got like all the money that I needed. I just ended up just putting out most out of pocket. But I worked last week a couple of days roofing, so that money I just put towards the printing.
That's awesome, Frank. That sounds like a rough job. Like, I mean, it also sounds kind of like nice. I don't know. Do you enjoy like roofing or no? I mean, because I have
It
friends who like work in construction and stuff, and they actually like love it. you know?
I like the way I work it with my friend because it's when he needs me. So sometimes it's just like a few days out of the week.
Yeah.
So I can actually like I'll work hard for not that I don't work hard, but like I'll work hard like outside like that, and then I get to rest. so,
Nice.
but yeah, this one it took more out of me because we hadn't been working in a while because he's been out of town, so I wasn't prepared. But like I worked 2 days, but it was good. Once I was working there, it wasn't as bad.
Oh man. Well, I've been like listening to this audiobook that's about like JD Salinger.
Oh yeah,
And so that's like been my latest jam for like kind of interest. I had kind of forgotten that he was like there at, like at D-Day, like in World
oh
War
yeah,
II. And like that I think he met like Hemingway like as a soldier. It's kind of weird. It's just like a really fascinating biography, but very like kind of sad because it's like there's a lot of these stories. Like I don't know how familiar you are with like Salinger or whatever, but it's like he's like notorious. He's known for being like this curmudgeon. Like they've written movies
yeah,
about like characters that are inspired by him, who are
yeah.
these like recluse writers. And what I had forgotten was like that some of that might have actually just been from like recovering from like being in these like insane wars, where it's like he had just witnessed so much horror that
Yeah.
like, it's like how do you go back to like a normal life, Um, I don't know. Anyhow, that's been really interesting to like read up on.
Oh,
Um,
cool.
and then I
Um,
met with the guys, like all the art casters. That was
yeah, I
fun.
saw that on Jim's Instagram.
Yeah, dude, Jim is like hilarious just as a person. He's just hilarious. But he's also like it's also nice like they're sincerely nice people. It was cool
Yeah.
too. It was neat. I think that might have been the first time I've met Jeremy in person, and that was cool.
Oh, okay.
So I stopped by his stream today, this
Yeah,
morning,
I
while
was
I
there
was
in the
penciling.
chats.
Yeah. And so I was like kind of stoked to see him like plugging away at that, at his stuff. But it was fun to meet him in person too. And again, it's nice. Like these people are like exactly as they are, online, I guess. So
Oh, real jerks.
yeah, exactly. So Jeremy's like, really got some inner darkness and
He's got some issues. Yeah,
but that's
Jeremy seems like he's really like upbeat. So it
yeah.
it shines through the live streams.
Yeah, he's a positive force. Like anytime we've had him on Artcasters, I feel really inspired. And I also feel like I'm a really negative person. Because I think comparatively, I think I'm a little more negative than Jeremy allows himself to be, which I think is cool. You know, I think it's cool that he retains like positivity, and he seems like a guy who'd be really nice to work with. You know.
Yeah.
So, which you know speaks well of like I'm sure why he's been able to do what he does professionally for so long. You know.
Yeah.
So.
Sure.
Yeah. So that's cool. So so it had been a while. Was that why it was like extra hard, or it's just like that it was a little
Yeah, I
longer?
think it had been let's see, maybe 3 or 4 months. Um, so like I wasn't like used to it anymore.
Yeah.
And then like because we were doing a roof, so like sometimes it'll be like inside work, and sometimes it'll be like uh, a small roof or a big roof. So I wasn't sure what it was until I got there, but
So is
it
it?
was
It's like repairing a roof, or like?
this one was kind of like almost re-roofing. It was I don't know if you get these types of roofs in California, but
Yeah.
it was a flat roof, but originally it was a gravel roof where they put like gravel on top.
Oh, okay.
And so what that does, it like eventually it's not that efficient. So like your house is gonna leak sooner or later.
Yeah.
So and those are like the notorious roofs to fix because you gotta take off all the gravel and then put on uh the new tiles.
Oh
But
wow.
what my
Is it
friend
harder?
found,
Like let's
well,
say sorry, let's say there's like a tile roof, right?
mhm.
A roof that's already tiled, and then that has a leak. That's easier to fix because the tiles are easier to take off than like the gravel.
Yeah,
Or
that's
okay,
that's easier to fix.
okay,
Um,
sorry. Keep
and
going.
and the way with this one because it's not regular tile. Um, it's these rolls that you put over. But he found out that there's this paper material that's almost like shingles that you can roll over. You do gotta clean up a bit, but you kind of roll over the gravel and then you screw in. So that took a couple of days. But once that's done and you can get done quicker, you put on the other material and you just torch it and you're just rolling out the big rolls.
Oh
So you
wow.
save thousands of dollars in the 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 house owner saves a lot of money
Yeah,
and the roofer saves money because he doesn't have to pay uh, extra employees for longer days.
got it.
So
Less manual like
yeah,
cost. Yeah, that's
so we
crazy,
were
man.
able to do that within a week, and I only worked like 2 days because like well, after the first day, like I was burnt. I was literally burnt. Uh, so he told me like, oh, just rest up. So like, because I wasn't used to it, but
Oh, got it. So it's like you physically were actually burnt.
yes,
Because it's a bad time of year for that too. It's like
yeah,
you kind of want that type of thing to like come up during like winter or something, you know?
yeah,
How's it
yeah.
going,
And
Jake?
the day we were gonna go in, the first day it was real windy, so we didn't go in because like you couldn't even get up on the roof.
Oh man, dude. How's it going, Jake? Are you there? I think we're joined by Jake, but I don't know if his connection's
You
there.
see, I guess he froze or dropped out.
Maybe he froze. Well, maybe we'll have Jake on. I guess we'll find out.
It's a
oh,
ghost.
oh, he's back.
Oh,
He's
okay.
back. All right. How's it going, Jake?
Oh, pardon me.
Sure,
The program was booting.
No worries, man.
Yeah.
It's okay. How are you doing?
Terrible.
Terrible. Oh no.
Terrible.
Why so? Anything you don't stuff you don't want to get into on air or
Oh,
do?
sure. I missed the bus today. I was going to be in this like meeting, but the sloth of me got in the way. So yeah, I missed the bus twice. So yeah,
Oh
I'm stuck at
no.
home working.
Oh no. That's rough. I used to it's funny, I was a very like late bloomer when it came to getting a license. And in like Los Angeles, like that's unheard of. Like everybody has their license, you know? Because
Mhm.
it's like it's just like it's not a commuter city. Like there's no effective commuting out here. It's like there's a long history of that and reason for that too. Like, but anyhow, it's just a weird city. Like anybody who like lives in like New York or like Portland or Seattle or like any other major city, even like San Francisco in California, is just like they're always kind of like, oh yeah, like not owning a car or like not having a license. That's not a big deal. But in LA, it's like almost like a death sentence. But I managed to, up until like my 30s, I didn't have a license or a car because I just couldn't afford a car or
Mhm.
like the insurance. But I do remember those times of like it saved me a lot of money and it's probably why I was able to get like a degree, you know, because I think had I like had to pay for like insurance and stuff, like my bills would have been so high I just wouldn't have been able to afford college.
Right.
But I do remember those days where like I'd miss a class or something because I'm like 5 minutes late to a bus stop, you know.
Yeah, it was just a. My brain was not with me tonight. I remembered just like by the hair that there was like a second bus coming up because there's a school bus and then there is a city bus.
Got it.
So and I live out like in the sticks. So I got like one shot, but I remember like that there is like this transit stop
Uh huh.
a few miles away from me, and I remembered that, and then I connected it to like, oh no, there's actually a second bus, and I was like walking back home as I missed the first one, and then almost at the same spot where I saw the bus pass me, I saw
Uh
the
huh.
second bus pass me again. So yeah.
Oh, jeez. Was
uh,
this like an important kind of thing, like that you
See, I
had to
was
get
going
to?
to I was going to like this entrepreneur course,
Oh yeah.
and I it was mostly about sales today, as what I read from the email, so I had to like
Yeah.
catch up on that. But I totally flunked on that, so yeah.
Oh, that sucks.
Yeah.
Well, sorry to hear that. I hope your night goes a little better, or your day goes a little better, I should say.
I got stuff to do. It's not like I have to worry about that. I have a lot on my plate. I'm going to work on a presentation until Friday, so that's sort of like what I'm going to do later today. But for now, on this stream, I'm just going to paint.
Nice.
Cool.
Well, glad to have you here, and sorry you missed that. That sucks.
Yeah, it happens.
Yeah, for
That
sure.
I made sure that I didn't miss school exactly for this reason because I spent like 3 years doing the same thing. No, actually 5. When I come to think of it, and it was grueling or agonizing when you're supposed to be at school and then you missed a bus. But it only happened like a couple of times.
Yeah, I had a few of those in my life, and it's never fun. And the areas that I would do it in, it was one of those scenarios because a good chunk of the times that was a big deal.
Mhm.
Like in Portland, it wasn't a big deal. When I lived in Portland, you miss a bus, like in 10 minutes, there's another bus, you know? At least at the time. I don't know if that's still the way it is there, but it's like, but the areas that I do that in, like, there was one where I lived near Huntington Beach, and it's like, if you miss your bus, you're like, you've lost an hour. Like, there's not going to be another one for another hour.
Yeah.
And then, same with like a lot of LA is like that too, you know, where it's like, yeah, if you're not there like 10 minutes early, you're screwed.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm currently painting album covers or
Nice.
parodies of album covers. I'm working on new bone meal thumbnails, and I thought, why not you do some album parodies? So yeah.
Sweet. Are you picking like classics, or what are you thinking?
Picking whatever I feel for. Some known, some unknown. Right now, I'm
Nice.
just fixing up this one that I started on Saturday. Kanye West, My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. And,
Okay.
I did some Godspeed You Black Emperor cover, which I really liked. I took like
Nice.
some obvious ones.
Yeah.
So that it wasn't lost on people. And then there are some like unknowns, like contemporary that I like, Thundercat and such.
Nice. So Thundercat's something I need to revisit, because I think I dug Thundercat, and then I just they're one of those bands that I kind of forget exist, and I shouldn't. Like, they're good. I just forget to check them out. So I need to like revisit that.
Yeah, his licks with Kamasi Washington is really good. If you listen to him.
All right, I'm gonna put that on my Spotify as I'm heading to work tomorrow, soon to be today. So, yeah, cool. How's bone meal coming?
I worked the most of last week. I worked intensely. I got about 6 pages out.
Awesome. That's good.
It.
So you have your buffer built back then?
Partially, but I need to increase it some more.
Got it.
For like satisfaction.
Yeah.
I want it now that I want it at least up to 10 now, so that I have like some span between releases, so that I can focus on other things, because I got to I got to apply for jobs.
Yeah. That's a job in itself too. Like, just applying for jobs, you know. And I feel like half the game, I don't know, you know, at least for me, anytime I've been in a position where I've had to apply for jobs, half the game is just trying to kind of, it's almost like submitting for publishers or something, where it's like a lot of the game is just to not get demoralized in the process, you know, because it's, you know, it takes a while quite often to kind of get those. And so it's like just kind of trying to keep your headspace in a good positive space, even if you're getting like rejections or whatever, you know.
Yeah, that was sort of like the worst period during like November / between October and November, when I was at the application center. It was just the worst.
Yeah, it's never fun. And also, it's just like, I don't know. I don't tend to think like someone's value comes from what they do, you know, like professionally. So I always try to kind of keep that in mind anytime I'm in that position, you know. I don't know why. There's like a gnat. We don't get gnats here. There's a gnat that wanted to destroy my page here. But yeah, Yeah, one of the things I really liked about the Artcasters meetup or whatever was just being around other artists. You know, we're all kind of doing different things professionally, but they're just all pushing out the stuff and just kind of making art for the heck of it. You know,
Hmm.
some of them do it professionally, some of them do it like, yeah, I think they all do it professionally, but it's like everybody's got like their own way to kind of make ends meet. You know,
Yeah.
yeah. But Frank, how are you? How are you hanging in there otherwise, other than probably exhausted from the roof stuff?
Well, thankfully I rested because I think the last day I worked was Friday, so I rested Saturday.
Nice.
But and then I just got back to working on the comic.
So this is a weird question. Do you guys like prioritize rest at all? That's a weakness of mine. I tend to not, and I should.
I I I I didn't, but I am doing it now more often.
Nice.
So I'll get in a couple of hours of sleep, then I'll wake up and do some more work, and then sleep again for another couple of hours.
So you're doing
I
like chunks of sleep, like little power naps,
Yeah, that's what
basically.
I'm trying to do. What was it that was a guest that was talking about that? Was that
Oh my gosh, now I'm
that
blanking out.
that wasn't Sean, was it?
No, it was let's see. Now I have to check. Hang on. Let me check. He was a good guest too. He's awesome.
Yeah,
Oh wait, I don't have to check. Richard Fairgray,
Rich
right?
Farragher, yes.
Who's a character. That guy's awesome.
Yeah.
I like him, you know. He's way more hardcore than I am, but it's like I really admire people who kind of know who they are and are just pretty confident about it, you know? I think that's awesome. So I don't know if that makes sense, but
no, understandable.
yeah. And then also his work's really cool. Like if you look into like his comics, like they're really good. Like they're really well made, they're well written, his dialogue's really strong. Just I don't know. But yeah, I thought it was funny when we were asking like for advice on like how he manages because I always feel like I'm failing quite often when I'm when it has to do with like productivity and sleep.
Yeah.
And so I was like, "What's your big trick? Like, what do you do?" And he's like, "Oh, I take a lot of Ritalin." I was like, "Oh man." So that's not a solution I can have because I got a kid, you know. So I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna prioritize trying to be like a decent example to him, you know. I don't think if I were like hopped up on Ritalin, um, but I do drink a crap load of coffee, so you know, I guess maybe that's one man's coffee. I don't know.
One man's coffee, another man's Ritalin.
I guess. But I did also. It was funny because initially my response was just like, "Haha," and he's like, "I'm not kidding." that was definitely one of those moments.
Yeah, I'm gonna try going decaf for a few days. See if my heartburns don't wear me down more.
Oh yeah. It depends. Like, do you drink straight or do you like put
I
cream
drink
and
straight.
sugar? Huh.
I don't add anything to it. I have to have my coffee black.
Yeah, me too. I kind of feel like that's half the trick. But I guess it can kind of affect your heart at some point. I don't know. You know.
Like it feels like a blast furnace when I've got and I got like chronic heartburns.
Oh
So
man.
I'm trying like to cut low on at least the spicy stuff when that
Yeah,
happens. But it's a give or take situation, really.
yeah, that's not bad though to like try to kind of get a control on that. Yeah, I was feeling like a ton of like aches and pains and stuff over the past week, and then I did the math and realized that I hadn't exercised, and like I had kind of been so gung ho on the comics that I just kind of dropped the exercise part of my
Yeah.
kind of regimen or whatever. And it's like anytime I do that, within a week of not exercising, I start feeling like just aches and pains and like grumpy, and I have to take like naps like 3 times as often, and it's like a weird thing, you know. I don't
Mhm.
know, kind of one of those
That might be
strange.
why I've been down. I haven't
Yeah,
exercised in a while.
yeah. I mean, I think that's always a good one. Like, you know, it's like yeah, or just like a regular sleep regimen isn't bad either. Like, I'm trying to do hard outs at 2, so that's my goal. I didn't do so well the last time I live streamed on that. I think I went to like 6 or something, and then I went to work and I got through the day and I did really awesome at my day job. But when I got home, I just felt like I was, you know, on the verge of like not functioning. You know,
Yeah.
I don't think we're meant to like function on like an hour of sleep. You know, but anyhow, so I've been thinking about as a potential thing for this stream, like possibly like inviting people on to talk about their mental health journeys. Does that sound
Okay.
interesting at all to you guys?
Yeah.
It's
For
a bit
me,
niche,
that's
but sure.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying like we have to talk about that now. It's just more of like a. I was curious if that would be interesting, like to hear like different, you know, creatives like talk about like their ways of battling the demons, you know, or whatever.
yeah.
I don't know.
Mm.
I also have been really enjoying debating, but I also
I've
realized,
noticed.
yeah, but I also realized like that can lead into like really weird territories. So it's like I'm not sure whether I should lean into that for content or anything. Cuz I have a part of me that like really enjoys it, but it's like, you know, I don't know. I think outside of getting like controversial like clickbait, I don't know if that's a good territory to go in. I don't know. What are your guys' thoughts on those things? I guess.
It brings the views.
Yeah, yeah. And I have to say it's fun. Like it's like a sport, you know. I don't know if that makes sense. Like
Yeah, yeah.
I'm rarely getting into those things to like convince someone of something, you know. I mean, I mean if I do convince them that'd be cool, but it's like for me a lot of it's like an exercise in like can I defend my position? Because if I can't,
Mhm.
like I find like if I can't defend my position, I really need to think about what I believe or whatever, you know? I don't know.
Well, it is. It's sort of like a exercise in just politicking
Yeah.
and rhetoric, rather
Yeah.
than having like a actual like debate. You know, when you're supposed to like um
Like
trying to give
prep.
out. Yeah, like prep. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's
You're,
like
you're not there like university debates club type of style, because that's sort of
no.
like that is sort of like a good space of like prep working, but the but see if you can like see if you're having if you got married. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, because it's definitely not in the cards. Like I just don't have the time. That's the key. Is like I wouldn't have the time to do like legit debates. You know. I don't know.
Oh, you gotta almost be hired to like do that stuff, or be employed full time.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that would have to be. That would almost have to be like I would almost have to like just stop doing comics and just do
Mhm.
that if I
Yeah.
wanted to do like legit debates. Because again, like I want to draw while I'm doing these streams, which was another reason why I was like, okay, so maybe I'll do, I don't know, but I thought it would be fun to like invite people on to talk about their journeys with mental health. I think that would be cool.
Yeah.
And kind of connect to a lot of what I work on and stuff,
Mhm.
So I
I'd
don't know.
definitely be up for that, Josh. Like I think I mentioned it last time that I was on. I'm listening to Michael Rosenbaum. He's an actor. He's the Lex Luthor from Smallville.
Okay.
So that's what he does. He has a podcast and he invites celebrities on and they talk about mental health. They just
Nice.
like what we do. Just like, hey, how are you? How are the kids? Uh, how's the family? Uh, and then just ask questions about like, what was it like for you, or what do you do to distress, and
Yeah.
it's very like I'm surprised that I didn't think I was gonna like it, but like actually I like this because it's celebrities talking about their mental journey, their mental health.
Yeah, that's always
Oh
fascinating when it comes from people who I think a lot of people look at and just assume they're like,
You
yeah,
got the
they've
shit
got it.
together.
Yeah, I think that's part of why it's such an interesting topic is like really hardly anyone has it figured out, you know?
That's sort of like the distinction. Like people have to like get away from the idea at least, or the ideation that
Yeah.
there is like a universal solution when it just like mental health is a case by case basis, and to
yeah,
treating it has no form of like applicability to the other person, even if they're like in the same sort of like circumstance or have like the same background almost to a
Yeah.
T. Its effect has definitely a uniqueness to it, and it's what sucks about it is that it can't be more than just like a chronologic like you can only chronologize these things. You can't like not make it as a form of um like a helping or guidance without having to like almost slid into like a mental health expert or like territory where it is sort of like required to like you can't and you can't really like get into the topic without having like to disclose every time that this is not a mental health show, that it's like practicing
Yeah.
or like advising to take these things. It's like not financial advice whenever you like get into like crypto discussions
Yeah,
or
I agree. That
stuff.
actually
So there's like elements of these things that are really like that has to be taken precaution to whenever it's discussed.
no,
So
that's a huge point because I don't think like for one thing, if I had people on, like I don't think I would give advice because I'm not really qualified to give advice. Like I
yeah,
can speak from my experience and stuff, but it's like I'm no like life coach or and even life coaches and people who like kind of use that, I'm a little like as you guys will know if you've listened to like the last few streams, I'm a skeptic. So it's like I don't tend to even like life coaching and stuff I get a little suspicious of. Um but I do think it's healthy to talk about. And like to me, I think like
yeah,
it's one of those things of like if I invited people on or whatever to talk about it, I think I'd be pretty open about like, hey, don't talk about stuff you don't want to talk about,
Mhm.
like publicly, because like for me I think it's more just like I think it's important to like I don't know, because I was thinking about like two stories, and one of the main reasons I did it is like I like the idea of destigmatizing the subject matter. Like I think it's so like treated like with kid gloves and as like this taboo thing, and I think like that actually can be more harm than good.
oh yeah,
Like
for sure.
the
um
thing is that
I can
it
speak from
brings
experience.
it brings on to like the other point from not like the medical expertise or whatever, but
Yeah.
the point of like the guest being in a vulnerable position to speak about it. It's also
Yeah.
a thing that brings up a lot of ethical dilemma in running like a conversation or program like that. If you're free to like open your heart up and just spill the guts, sure.
Yeah.
But it's got to be like in a consensual form, that
Yeah.
Well, yeah, of course.
And I
that
think
does like
I'd also
that
really
has to
want
be
to,
like discussed in the background before the show. I'm saying.
yeah, I would actually like really want
Mm.
to also really make sure to guide the conversation where the person's not like saying a bunch of crazy stuff that like, not crazy stuff, but like stuff that could like be problematic for them,
Mm-hmm.
And I think I'd be really open about that too, and be like, "Hey, this is the internet, so like, don't forget like this stuff. Stuff can be eternal, online." But I don't know. It's just a thought. It's something I'm kind of batting
Uh,
around. But I do
I
know.
recommend, Josh, that you watch Inside of You with Michael Rosenbaum and get some. Watch how he does it and try to develop your own thing because he's not speaking as a medical professional. He's
Yeah,
just like, hey, I had mental health stuff with acting. I just started openly talking about it, and other guests started openly talking about it, and it's been helping, and it
yeah.
just went
I
from there. So
I kind
like,
of think of it in that way too, because like I know a ton of creatives, and I like think that there's a lot of people doing art that like I honestly I kind of think the type of personality that's drawn to like creating stuff is
yeah,
like definitely like drawn to the darkness a little bit,
oh yeah,
um because of the fact that like I think art creation's so vulnerable. It's like we're sort of, I don't know, we're analyzing a lot. I think creatives are analyzing a lot. And so it's like I think it's like if if a lot of mental health struggles come from like overthinking, it's like I think that like most of my friends have mental health struggles because of that. You know what I
hmm
mean? And
Mm-hmm.
then they all have different techniques and ways that they kind of deal with it or
yeah.
like navigate it. And it's like, to me, that would be a really fun. I know it's weird to say it would be fun, but I think that would be a fun conversation.
Oh no, I agree,
Um,
Josh. And whenever you started, let me know. I'll gladly come on.
cool. Yeah, I think it'll
Because I
just be
think I
like,
even didn't you do a show or something somewhat recently, maybe a couple of months ago, where mental health was brought up,
yeah,
and I said like, "Would if you ever wanna have me on talk about mental health, I'll be happy to come on because that's stuff I want to talk more about." Same reason I want to take away that stigma that like, oh, don't talk about it. You shouldn't say those things. You shouldn't tell people those things. And like, well, why not? So
yeah, yeah, right. Like, because the worst part for me when I was going through that stuff was like feeling really, even now, like if I struggle with stuff like that, it's like the feeling of isolation with it, where you feel like no
yeah,
one else, gets it or whatever, as opposed to just like, oh, this is like part of being human.
yeah,
I don't know. But yeah, so I think if I do end up doing it, it'll probably just be like casual on the streams, but I'll just be a little more intentional about like bringing it to that topic, and then like letting, obviously, like if I invite people on or whatever to talk about it, letting them know like, hey, that's what, like, I'd like to have you on to talk about this, as opposed to
yeah.
um yeah. So that'll be interesting. I don't know. I'm
Yeah.
glad that's not like that taboo, but Jake, I think that's a really good point. Like if I were to delve into that, like, yeah, there's ways to be really responsible about it and ways to be really irresponsible about it. And I wouldn't want to like exploit people. Um,
Yeah.
uh,
I think just be upfront about it. Like, hey, like, I want to start talking about mental health. You want to talk about it that's
Yeah.
cool. If not, that's fine. And of course,
One of the
if
best
you
course of
wanna
actions
say,
to do that is just to show a show that exemplifies it. If you have like an episode where you, for example, interview Frank, um, and
yeah,
you
that's
course
what I'm
it
saying. Like,
through I'm just saying like as a demo.
Yeah.
If you course it through, send that clip to the person of interest
Yeah.
who you like to discuss about it, and then they'll get familiar with the with how like the process goes of it.
Yeah. And I still would want it to be like an art stream. So I'd be like, we're going to
Yeah.
do it while we work on art, because I think
Mhm.
that's half the appeal of streams and stuff is like you can get stuff done that you need to get done anyway.
Mhm.
And then so it's like being in a studio space, but yeah, it'll be interesting. I have to wash my hand because this is crazy. See
go
this?
for it, Josh.
So I'll be right back. Why don't you guys? Oh, this was funny. This has become an on-running joke with our in-person meetups, where like Jim posited the idea. Wouldn't it be funny if you guys met me in person? And I was like, well, I gotta take off and get some coffee for a second.
Oh,
So
yeah.
while I'm gone, why don't you guys all go around and introduce yourselves and let everybody know where they can find you? Anyhow, I think that would be funny if that's not like a show. That's just how I am in person.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like, hi, Frank, and where can people find your work? Anyhow, but needless to say, yeah, let everybody know where to find your stuff. Why don't we start with Frank and then go to Jake? I'll be right back.
Sure, you can find my stuff on Salazar Art Nation on YouTube and on Instagram, same name. There is a link tree in any one of my videos, so it'll take you to my Etsy store where you can buy the Captain Goggles and Mask Woman issue 1 and issue 2 mini comic bundle. There's a third comic in there as well. And I'm almost selling out, so you pick up your copies. And that story is being combined into one full story in color and a bigger size. So as soon as that is done and sent to the printers, that will be up on Etsy. And subscribe. Your turn, Jake.
Yeah. Sorry, I got caught up coloring the latest parody for my comic Bone Meal. It's released every Friday at 4 p.m. EDT on newgrounds.com. Just follow the handle JTwister. That's a V, not a W. You can also follow that handle on Twitter to get the latest updates and news about Bone Meal and other shenanigans that I want to present in the future. So
I like that. Jake, I'm glad you brought that up too, because I feel like there are some people who will give like almost like psychological advice on shows, and they kind of skate the line of like ethics, and I don't like that. Because I feel like I mean, you can give advice as like a friend or whatever, but it's like I think there's an ethical line you got to kind of tread on when you're
not only
dealing
that,
with
but
people's
there's
heads.
also the law that you got to deal with within your county or whatever. When it becomes like a platform like this, I don't know if the FCC or like any other like electronics communications board have like certain laws in place. That happens. I would guess that shows that shows that Frank mentioned have sort of like a medical professional expert or like a small team of experts in place so that they would discuss what is right and like coursing through the interview.
Either that or they have like a disclaimer, because like I love there's a podcast I really enjoy called the Mental Illness Happy Hour.
Mm-hmm.
And it's Paul Gilmartin, and he'll have like different comedians and people come on to specifically talk about like mental health struggles.
Yeah.
And I think at the beginning he says like this isn't meant to be like a replacement for like therapy or anything like that. It's more like a conversation in the waiting room, you know?
Mhm.
Like
Yeah.
but I do think it's important to like preface that kind of thing if I do start getting heavy into it. I do think if it just ends up being more of a topic that's talked about like
Then
on my
you're
stream, then
really clear. I would say.
yeah, because it's like, you know, I mean, I do write a comic about my own kind of mental health journey, so it's like
Yeah.
I feel like I don't know. I was just thinking about this the other day, like where I was like, there's a couple routes I could more intentionally go with my stream. One of them would be like debates, which I feel like I don't know if I want to go in that territory, that turf. I think artist debates would be funny and interesting because it's like you know, especially with the premise of like no, you need to be like working on art while you're talking. Like you can like
The
that should
issue
be like,
then, though, is that a lot of artists do have dog shit takes.
yeah, that's true. That is true. Yeah. And then it kind of sucks like if I'm just debating, like this is definitely an experience sometimes where you're like you want someone to have like some kind of defense, and then I have this Jake, maybe you have this too, I don't know, but like I have like I struggle with like trying to understand someone without logical bearing, like, and I don't mean like they need to have like this crazy defense that would like hold up in court, or like, you know, they could go to like Oxford and like debate some like giant debater about what they think. I always am like mystified when people don't like reason their belief
Yeah.
or their thought, you know, like, and it's really like this might be like a slightly autistic thing on my part, but it's like really hard for me to even comprehend that people don't do that.
Mhm.
Like it's just weird for me. And so like I think one of my weaknesses is like not knowing when to stop a conversation where I'm like, oh, okay, like this just definitely isn't gonna, because I'm always digging, like I want to know like, okay, but there's got to be like a root here somewhere, right? Like like we're not just like often just kind of crazy town. I don't know, it's interesting. But it's
Yeah.
that's something I got to be more cognizant of if I did choose to kind of more proactively go that route, you know.
No, I agree. I got a terrible propensity to like question, so that there's like a thread that follows through, and not like it's coming out of impulsivity,
Yeah.
or at least like the worst kind of like argumentation that I hear is pamphlet argumentation. Is that you could pick up like any sentence and then you could like retrofit it to work in favor that is on like a universal agreed upon thing, but it doesn't state anything of substance. It's only there as some form of a a, uh, a peacocking, you know,
Got it.
where it's not like anything but. And when you get into the more thorough the thorough arguments about it, when you like look through the argument,
Yeah.
where it's coming from and all that, you start to see where the faults are with the person when they start to trying to reason
Yeah.
with, or try to explain in a logical pattern. Say, for example, one of the most notorious ones that I know of is the whole mission operandi with feminism. You know, equal opportunities between the sexes is one of the most like casual thrown things around. Now, on the surface, yes, it's agreed upon in this day and age that this is a universal that everyone can agree upon. However, you could also make that same equivalence or argumentation from an egalitarian perspective or a humanist perspective.
Yeah.
Now, where that bubbles up from is way more interesting than saying that as like a template in a sense.
No, I get
And
what you're saying.
a lot of people struggle to like find a way of rationalizing it? Have they succumbed to the meme, or have they actually put a few hours into the thing to like think through?
Yeah, that's a really good point of like I think, and again, I don't expect somebody to have it like fully thought out, right? But I would expect like, you know, because this is how my mind works. Like it's like half of why I like getting in contentious conversations sometimes is like I want to figure out what I know or what I think. You know, like I may not actually know, like you know, and so it's like
It's better on the pretense of like not knowing at all.
yeah, but like it's also a lot of fun because like in a conversation like that, like I have like some pretty specific reasons I think it's important to have like kind of equal rights. Like, but
Sure.
it's like I would really enjoy that kind of conversation because it would help me ground what those reasons are or like test whether I really do have those reasons or if I'm just like kind of buying into a meme. You know, yeah, so but I don't think everybody's wired that way. You know, I do think there's some people who just like they like a band and they like it because they like it.
Yeah.
And you know, and it's like, and that's I guess what I'm getting at is like that's not necessarily a bad way to go all the time. It's just mystifying to me because I have trouble doing that. Because I'm like, usually when I like a band, I'm like, I really like the guitar work, or I really like the way they compose songs, or they do off timing here, or whatever. You know, like there's some reasons that I can point out as to like why I like something. And then occasionally there's the kind of thing like, you know, that's a meme like Tom Jones, where I'm like, I can't understand why I like Tom Jones, but I like Tom Jones.
Yeah, but then you get like a counter to that in the form that people who take it very sincerely
Yeah,
start to question even that, and that I would say is more even autistic.
Yeah.
Try to actually refute or have the person who's just like captivated by it to trying to explain something, and that's sort of like part of like why internet discourse doesn't work, is that
yeah,
people take things too literal in that way, and it shouldn't be like a daily task onto you to have like to explain everything, and that's sort of like seeped into art itself. You know, one of
Yeah.
the main problems now is that you have to explain the art rather than to have other people find that, you know, like they like it because they've sort of like been affected upon it, even on like the shallowest level, like pop culture, fleeting moment. You could like dig a pop like a pop tune or whatever,
yeah,
but you don't need to reflexively like show that this is why. It's like inquiry without having
yeah,
the need to, you know.
yeah. I totally agree.
That is totally like distracting. It doesn't help you at
Yeah.
all. It doesn't help on your journey, but if you want to like have a casual conversation about it, sure.
Yeah,
Just do not go in with the pretense of, hey, we're gonna discuss like this for 10-15 hours, like how this tune is going to be like a pop culture moment of that leading into some kind of like political like rambling and all that stuff. It's like seeing through like it's like making like weird connections, which I genuinely, despite the red
yeah,
and then it just feeds into like this whole opportunistic like cloud chasing and all that stuff. There's so many like weird problems with or ways of communication that has been brought upon now that it's insufferable. You know.
yeah. That's part of why I think if I'm like picking between the two, like, I mean, obviously, I mean, anybody who watches my streams or whatever is familiar. Like, if somebody makes some weird claim, I'm probably going to challenge them on it. Like, that's just my personality, you know? Or at least like ask some questions about it just to like try to dig into it and understand it. So I don't think I can even fight that. I think that's just part of who I am. So like inevitably that's going to happen sometimes on my streams. But I think like having more of like a focus on deeper conversations about like how people kind of cope with like just sort of like the struggle of existence is a
Hmm.
good, like, I think that's a really good topic, and that could lead to some really interesting territories that you're not necessarily going to get from a debate, but like it'll get to a lot of the same core stuff that you would get to just way deep into a debate, right? Where it's like, you know, a lot of what people debate about are like their deeper philosophies or what are driving them.
Hmm.
And quite often they don't even realize it, you know, when they're in the thick of like a big conflict. Like they won't realize, like, hey, at the core of this, it's just like I'm a utilitarian, or at the core of this, like, you know, like, I don't know, they'll have some like underlying philosophy that's like sort of why something would make them argue about it, right?
Sure.
And like a lot of that stuff would just come out naturally with like a more open conversation that's like talking about something that I think would be a lot more applicable for like helping people and stuff. I don't know, but and also again, it could like make people feel less alienated, which I think is a huge problem like in the world, you know, is like that people feel so isolated in their struggles, you know. um so anyhow, it's just a thought, but I'm enjoying the thought of it. And at the end of the day, I'm probably just going to do streams and do them while I'm drawing, and then whatever comes up, comes up. But I do like the idea of doing a little bit more intentionality with it, because I think that would be fun, you know,
Hmm.
to kind of, I don't know. Yeah. But I feel like I feel like you have probably a side of you that likes debate too. Maybe I'm wrong.
It's not that I actively go out and want to have a debate. I'm just very, as I've said like multiple times when I've been here on the streams, that I'm a very high functional conversationist.
Yeah.
And on that end, a lot of people can't follow with me. And even at that point, I'm feeling like I'm retarded on a on a on a lot of things. I don't feel like I'm smart. I just really like to sort of like put myself in a position where I have to like think thoroughly. And there's not
Right.
a lot of people
Yeah.
who are willing to do that all willy nilly, or even at like leisure. You know, I'm
Yeah.
surrounded by people who are not like in that mode of thinking that I am on a daily basis, and that sort of like hurts me because I don't get to talk this like to this level a
Yeah.
whole, and at the same time it hurts me even more when I'm in the arena, because uh, I've struggled even then because I haven't found the rhythm or the or like my kind of like rhetoric to be like solid enough. It feels very fleeting. It feels reflexing. It feels no self-conscious. Uh, and even at that point, it's just I haven't had that practice, so I'm still out of the ordinary within the unordinary.
Yeah, I kind of understand that. I mean, it's like I think that's part of why I have trouble avoiding a debate, because I'm like, I like somewhat like you were describing. It's like I like exercising the thought process, you know, and seeing if my thoughts can hold up, or I can communicate like complex ideas that are hard to vocalize, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But then, yeah, quite often, like it's like I'm no expert on, you know, anything really, except maybe a little bit on art because I've done it for a long time. But it's
Mm-hmm.
like even that I wouldn't consider myself an expert. I just know some stuff about it, you know.
Yeah, I don't really like consider myself an expert on anything either. It's just that I enjoy kind of like finding things out, but
Yeah,
there's a lot of like people who have like this that I meet that have a propensity, or I'm really liking that word today, that have the sort of know-it-all attitude,
yeah,
and it surprises me how much like I'm like profoundly dense in a lot of casual conversation, because they bring up like things that I don't really think about a whole lot, even the simpler things. and I'm just wondering if I'm just too caught up into this whole like thing of myself that doesn't really, connect with other people,
Yeah.
and that is sort of a detergent for me to like not interact with other people too. So yeah, I'm a very self-sabotaging person myself when it comes to like picking who I want to like talk with or not.
Yeah, I understand that too. I actually relate to that. That's a struggle. But I guess it's also just kind of like some of its personality too, where it's just like
Yeah,
I've definitely
like
found.
I have a hard time like talking with people who are too confrontative or like not too confrontive, but too um way out there, like tooting their own horn and not have a passion for what they do. They like they cannot like talk out of also with this passion about certain things without having to involve themselves into the picture.
Oh, that's a good point.
And also another element is linear thinking or bipolar thinking.
Yeah,
That's a huge problem with society today too.
yeah, I could see that. Yeah, I relate. Oh man. Well, so we've been going about an hour. I can probably hang for
All
like
right.
another hour if you guys are hanging. If you guys are done though, we can call it. So it kind of depends
I
if you
just
guys
started.
are hanging. Okay, if you guys are hanging out, I'll hang with you guys for about another hour.
Okay.
But thanks, this has been enjoyable, and I have finished one panel. So now let's see if we can get two done. That encourages me because, like, I am getting a little faster, I think, at this style. So who knows? Who knows how long that'll last? Also, that was a fairly easy panel, so there's that. If that were like a big crowd scene, I think I'd probably be saying I'm done around 2. Okay, I'm gonna get a refill of my coffee, and I'll be shortly back.
All right, cool.
I never thought of painted roses before, but damn, it's fun.
Of what?
I never thought of like painting roses before, but now
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
starting to enjoy that. It's really good. Although that I can't say the quality of it is good, but it's just all right. Hey Adam, in the chat.
How's it going, Adam?
Is that my buddy
Um,
Adam?
Frank, how
Yes,
do you
sir.
manage to stay so good faith with people? Because
Yeah,
you're not an irrational person, and you're actually pretty darn smart. When I've had one-on-one conversation with you, it's like you know some stuff, like
Yeah.
but you manage to kind of ebb away from like sort of like crazy contentious topics, and I'm kind of wondering, is that something you like worked on consciously, or is that just part of your personality? I don't know.
It's
I
something
actually
that
admire it, is all I'm saying.
it's something I developed over the years because I used to be not very rational and not very hot-headed. So it's something that I worked on so I can actually have friends. And if I want, if I want to get into a weird topic, like I'll try to like get away from it without being like obvious that I don't want to talk about it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I don't know. Like, again, I don't. That sounds like a much healthier approach. I don't know. For me, it's just hard. It's like I don't know. Yeah, it's an interesting personality trait. I don't know.
Yeah, and I try not to act like I know more.
Yeah,
But if someone's challenging me, then I'll respond. But even then, um, I'll try to hold back a bit where I'm not shooting off at the mouth.
yeah, it's pretty smart. Pretty smart. Yeah, I don't know. I've been told by people that I have a gift of convincing people of things. um, but that can be like a blessing and a curse, because it's like I
You
can't
started
really
to.
turn. I have trouble turning that off. I don't know.
Is that why I bought swamp gas from you?
Why you bought what?
Swamp gas.
Yes, the swamp gas that cures all things. That was just me, just randomly just deciding to sell some swamp gas. I'm
And
sorry.
the Golden Gate Bridge. So I own that now.
I love that idea. Um, Ladies and gentlemen, I just thought I'd mention that I am the owner of the Golden Gate Bridge now. And I just bought it yesterday from a guy who gave me a really good deal on it. Have you ever had a moment where, well, I think we did talk about this. It's like where somebody's been like a good friend, like kind of fell for something pretty heavy, and you're like, oh man, like they just got scammed or something,
Yeah,
I think we did talk about that, right?
yeah. I know my ex. She would fall for scams um, like she bought a car on eBay and they're like, okay, go send me the money and I'll send you the car. And she never got the car. And I was like,
Oh my goodness.
and she was like telling me after the fact, like, no, you should have told me before. Uh, like, all right, I didn't like tell her, oh, that's dumb or you should know better. I was like, well, I mean, she did it already, so it's no sense in bringing her down.
Yeah.
Um, but like, no, yeah, like, it's always double check before.
Yeah.
uh,
Confirm.
so,
Yeah. Get things in writing if you're doing a business deal.
yeah,
Make sure you know the location of the people that you're doing business with too.
yeah.
That's a good one. So, Jake, how's everything in your neck of the woods? Is are things still pretty tense, like politically right now, or
Is Jake muted?
I don't know.
Or did he freeze?
I think he might have frozen. We might have lost Jake.
Oh, okay.
Alas. Well, oh, there he is. He's back.
Oh, he dropped. Okay.
Back with a vengeance, guys.
Apparently, my screen sharing thing killed my mic, so yeah, I'm not doing that anymore. We're going to do the Ukraine thing. Yeah, I heard that we're going to take in more refugees due to conflict, and I don't know if that brings in like unrest or whatever. We'll see the effects of it when that happens, but it's not a grand time to be like in a speculative sort of like zone where you don't know if the conflict would have more ramifications than it already has provoked. I heard from some analysts the other day that it could really affect the way that how the EU works in the future due
Yeah.
to some designs of it, and it could like the proposal could be that they could become a superpower should things
The
escalate.
the EU could, or
Yeah.
yeah, I could see that.
If militarizing up the NATO, militarizing NATO and all that could, yeah, it's weird the way that has sort of like taken a hold in Europe. It's unrest that we haven't seen since the war, since the wars. So
Yeah.
it is, it's fickle, and I anticipate nonetheless that it will be a trying time.
Yeah, so like what are you doing to kind of
Cope.
yeah, like not like it's horrible to say not think about, because like we obviously, I think we're all in agreement, like I don't think any of us are like the type of people who don't want to focus on stuff.
As I've said like multiple times to myself, and not actually to people, I think I've spoken to this myself. I don't really think I have a future.
Huh.
And it's okay.
Huh.
I've wandered through this fucking life without having the care in the world, and don't know where I'm ending up at. And at some point, it will come and bite me in the ass. But just planning and all that stuff, it doesn't do me no good, because every plan that I've had in my life has always been shattered to some extent.
Yeah, it's kind of a weird thing with plans too, because I had to face this. I don't know, maybe Frank can chime in on this too. But it's like I definitely, when I was like really having, I mean, I still, I still struggle with depression. I think that's something you just don't kick ever, if you're like built like I am, where it's just like I overthink everything.
Yep.
It's hard for me to like look at something like one level deep. I need to go like 20 levels deep. And 20 levels deep on anything gets kind of dark,
Yep.
So, but like one thing that has helped me is like the plan thing. I mean, I do plan, and I think it's important to plan and do things with intention and like have goals and pursue goals and stuff. But I'm like way less married to the result of those things. Because when I was really in the thick of depression, it was literally like when I'd plan for something and those plans would like collapse. And then it was like the lack of control over it that would like really freak me out or bum me out. And it was like sort of the biggest problem for me was like the illusion of control, like the idea that I had control over any of it,
Yeah, it's not that I have like a control, like
well, it sounds like you have a healthier, approach.
No, it's just that I know that I feel like my position in the world has been like totally out of my hands forever.
Yeah.
But it wasn't until I started picking apart these things and coming to terms with who I am and trying to do comics that I really like started to change course.
Yeah.
Comics was like the one thing that I wanted to wake up on, and it beckoned me to get back and really sort of assess who I want to be, and it sort of like is paying off, but it's just a gradual approach that you don't see any like fruits of until like probably late in life.
Yeah.
And I do like have that hope that it will eventually pay off to some degree. It's just that I might never know. So I'm going with the expectancy of like not having like any big ideas of who I am. Like that is totally antithetical to approaching life as is, because as like the Christians say, God man plans, God laughs.
Yeah. No, that's actually a really good quote, though. But yeah, I've definitely I've found strange comfort in accepting what I don't have control over. More so than when I was younger. Like when I was younger, I get really bothered by stuff that was outside of my control. And I'm not saying like I've found some Zen place where that stuff doesn't bug me. Of course. Like if I like plan to do something and then something gets in the way of those plans, it's frustrating, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But I think I've gotten a little better at being like, well, now we're adjusting, like as opposed to like before where I think sometimes those things would like cripple me. Of course I was definitely not like in a very healthy place like with that stuff. So, but anyhow, my point in bringing that up was like, Jake, actually, it sounds like a better approach, like your take.
Don't take it like that. That I've solved it. It's just that
No.
I still like get anger issues,
Yeah.
but it's mostly turned inward. So it's not like at any other person in life but myself. Whenever some shit happens,
Yeah.
and I prefer it to be that way, so that I don't go around harming other people who have no who shouldn't be like feeling that type of aggression. The ones that I know that I can tackle it, I explicitly do that to them, but that's because of my own gripes and grudges. Like I do have unsaid things and words that I should have like said years ago that I didn't have the courage to or like the power to muster to summon. But now I'm in like a in the stage of life to just speak more truthfully, and that's sort of what I want to do, more or less.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, I feel like I loved. I don't know. Scott was talking about this on a show a little bit ago, where he was talking about like the idea of like extreme ownership, and I think that is cool. Where it's like sort of just think about like what you can own in a situation and like what responsibility you can take. And I think that can be really healthy as long as you're not like, again, like taking responsibility for like I don't know, like if a tornado hit or something, like that's a little extreme to take responsibility over.
Yeah, as I said, there is like a wall of irresponsibility where it becomes so much that not one person can do that.
Yeah.
Or afford that much of like an assistance.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's sort of like a just a level of grounding yourself to the matter at hand, where I'm finding out like what you can deal with about it. And that sort of like comes down to what you as a person can do.
Yep.
So just doing that is,
yeah.
You'll be amazed how like small things like that just like changes when it's like when people are collectively doing like their own single thing.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden it's like a change of effect done through individual courses of actions, and it's a weird phenomena to witness when it's actually happening.
Yeah, I agree. It's been interesting like seeing like one of the things I liked about that meetup, this week was like, everybody who met up in that art group was like, they're all people who are like working on their own stuff. And there is like this weird energy, about these people who are all kind of creating stuff. And then also just like this collective thing that happens where, when you have enough people kind of pursuing something, eventually like some of the people start seeing some successes,
Mm-hmm.
And it's like this cool, it's just this cool thing to kind of collectively experience, we had like I was really bummed because my my kitchen just decided to like drown the other day.
Oh no.
And so we had to like call a plumber, and it was like I couldn't do art casters that day. But my good friend Lonnie Millsap was on,
Mm-hmm.
and I've been wanting to get him on for a while. He's a little shy too, so it's like it's been a while. Like it's taken a while to get him on the show, and I was really excited about being on it, and then I wasn't able to be on it, which was kind of a bummer. But Lonnie is one of those guys who, when I first met him, he was just kind of doing his own thing. He's like self-publishing his books and just saying yes to a lot of things. And then now he's like, I think been in the New Yorker like 30 something times,
Wow.
which for a cartoonist, that's like, at least for
Lot.
single panel strips, you can't beat that. Like that is the top. Like there is no higher honor than the New Yorker as a single panel cartoonist. And it's like I've seen that happen. Like he wasn't there when I first met him and was hanging out with him, and then that's just happened. Now that happened with a lot of like hard work, and he definitely planned and talked to other cartoonists who'd been in it and stuff like that. But it's like it's also just one of those things of like I don't know. It's neat when you start experiencing that with artists too, where it's like collectively you'll start seeing artists when they're carving at it and fighting that battle. Every
Mhm.
once in a while they gain ground, and you're like, oh, it's possible. It's like,
Mhm.
I don't know. So I think that ties in to what we're talking about. Where it's like it's possible. It's possible. You just kind of, own what you can and say yes to opportunities as they come up.
I think
Also, Adam, you're in the chats. If you wanted to hop on, man, you're welcome. So
the war in Ukraine really put me over the edge, really, and I've been contemplating on quitting online or being online overall for a period of time, so that I can really concentrate. A really funny word that just like dawned onto me, or like a word set of combinations, was monastery mode.
Ooh, I can understand that. Yeah.
And I think that's sort of like how the internet will eventually just process and sort of like go, that people would take extended periods of times offline to really focus and work.
Yeah.
So that for their sake of like mental health and all that, instead of being bathed in this blue glow of bullshit. we got ourselves in, and I think like it would be like the best course of action, just like to hype up productivity. Not that I want to like completely cut out like the internet. I would probably spend Sundays when I'm resting just answering emails or whatever to people who might like to send some like messages or whatever. But I'm seriously contemplating on like quitting online or being online.
Just so you can focus on your art, right?
Yeah. And I don't know how long that will take. I have already like set myself a sort of like a goal that I want to do before I come back. It's I don't know how feasible that is, but 1,000 pages to me sounds like a nice start.
1,000 pages sounds awesome. I think you can do it. And by the way, I also hope I wasn't like the guy who's bringing up Ukraine when you're not trying to think about it. Like that's kind
no.
of
I actively think about the conflict. It's nothing that you should probably live with my roommate. He'll have a different story, but for me, it's just it's another like another level of noise in the whole cog of bullshittery. And to escape nihilism, you do art.
Yep. Yeah, I get that. I definitely I was just more curious just because it I get stressed about that here, so it's like I can't imagine. Like that's why I asked, because I'm just like, where you're at, it's like much closer.
Mhm.
So it's just hard to think of it not being like a thing, and then like figuring out ways to navigate it. I don't think like taking breaks from the internet's bad. I just think if you're gonna do it, you don't want to be the person who quits Facebook every month.
No, it's
You know
just
who I'm talking about there, right? Like where there's like those people who are like, I'm done with Facebook, I'm deleting all my accounts, and then it's like 4 months later they're back on Facebook.
no for me. It's more like a detox period,
Yeah,
because I've been online for about good of over 10 years.
yeah,
I've seen some. I've seen like
the dark
evolutions
side.
that I've seen the evolutions that could have been considered dark ages, or even Stone Age at this point. Like when you've been around for as long as I have, it's just, man, I really need to like get a grip on life and not become uh, hooked anymore on this bullshit.
Yeah, that I can understand, because it's like I do think it's important to, like, I love the internet. I really enjoy it. I think it's a great thing. Um, but yeah, I mean, there's definitely life outside of the internet. Um, and that's good to indulge
Although
into.
some people would insist that isn't the case, but there is so much more. There's so many hours I could have spent like um, doing other things. Like
Yeah, that's
I've spent too much of it like playing video games, and I got like a whole library that I want to like read up on. So I want to like shift my activities at least.
yeah. I like that idea of yeah. It's if I didn't have to do comics, I don't know if I wasn't having to work on art right now, I don't know if I'd be live streaming. I'd probably be listening to an audiobook. But I do enjoy the conversations.
Yeah,
Oh,
so
let me. I guess Adam's gonna hop on, so let me send him the link. Yeah, but I do feel like there's a healthy. There's like a yeah. There's a healthy balance. It's like anything. The internet can be a drug, and much like coffee, like it's good to have in moderation. If it's starting to cause heart issues, like probably not a bad idea to do some decaf or just cut coffee altogether, right?
yeah.
But if you do this pilgrimage away from the internet, you need to still show up on the night gang every once in a while, because you'll be missed.
I can't promise that.
What a shame.
I know it sounds corny and all that, but I really just wanna escape reality to reality.
Yeah, I can understand that. All right.
There is yeah, you were saying?
Oh no, continue.
No, yeah, I've had this contemplation of like how to really structure yourself more like a rigorously. So to think ahead and sort of like work um, work intentionally, by not like being caught up with too many distractions, could really like improve upon my mindset, instead of having to uh, sort of like crave interaction, or crave other things that won't like help my success.
Yeah, yeah. No, that makes perfect sense. Adam, I don't know what's going on. I'm hearing like a crazy loud fuzz.
Oh, is that me?
I think so, because it started once we put you on there.
There we go.
Yeah, it's clear now. but it almost sounded like the wash of like static or something, static electricity flowing over all
I don't
of
know
us.
what that is. People keep telling me something happened with my mic or my sound card or something. Because I noticed that in the video too, that it's like static in the background, especially if I stop talking.
That's so weird. I mean, that's interesting. I don't know. Is it bothering anyone, or are you guys good with the
Yeah,
fuzz?
it's a really loud fuzz. So
Yeah.
Well, I don't hear it. So
Okay. Well, I guess we'll roll with the fuzz. That's cool. So, isn't that like a mobster name for the cops? Like
yeah,
back in like
so
Yeah.
40s movies?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
it's the fuzz.
So I don't know. I do feel like you've been making pretty good progress on your cartooning, though. Knocking it out, Jake.
yeah, not me.
Cool.
I think it's dog shit. That's just me. I plan on wrapping it up in June,
Yeah.
so that I don't have to think about it anymore.
Are you planning on telling some of those bigger stories that you've been kind of curious about doing?
More or less.
Nice. Because I want to see you tackle like, well, see, this is terrible. Because like, if you talk to like Corey or somebody like that, they'll be like, "Do you like a 20-page comic?" I'm the guy who's like, if you have a graphic novel you want to do, just start. Like, do it now. You know.
Yeah.
But some people are like, do not do that because you'll end up in this scenario where you have to make all these pages and yeah. Anyhow.
So I'm not arguing against like doing short works, just to get the stamina. It's just that I know fully well, like ins and outs and all that stuff, instead of having to like practice it.
Yeah.
I started literally my first project was a graphic novel length. The only problem is that I knew that I wasn't ready to tackle it. It's a magnitude, and it's like it cannot be stated enough. It's a behemoth of a challenge to like go on about doing. I had the same kind of like knee-jerk reaction when I said that I was going to like produce a graphic novel length earlier this year, and I said to myself, no, I probably shouldn't. I should be focusing more on developing and doing other things. And that's sort of like why I want to go to that whole like monastery mode thing, so that I get that breadth of work out there.
Okay.
And then see if I still hold up afterwards.
I think you could.
Yeah, nothing's really stopping me when I set my mind to it. That's the issue with me. I'm too stubborn to like give it up. And the more like people who say that I can't do it, I say, well, fuck you. Let me work.
Yeah. I have said this before, and I'll say it again. I think "fuck you" is a good motivation. It can be a really unhealthy one.
No, it's like an inner drive, you know. It's a very positive negative.
Yeah.
That if you're met with that as sort of like a restrictor or as sort of like a resistance by other people, you suddenly start to have like a natural response to it.
Yeah.
It's a very nature like thing, or like a natural thing that comes out as it's a proclamation, sort of.
Yeah, I had an ex-girlfriend very early on in my cartooning, like before I met my wife and we were dating and stuff. And she had this conversation with me where she criticized me. This is like when I was like in my very early 20s, right?
Mm-hmm.
And she criticized me as a person who only dreamt when I was asleep. And I remember taking that as like a, oh yeah, kind of challenge.
Mm-hmm.
because the criticism was that I was a person who like didn't, actively, pursue my dreams and stuff. And so like, I used that as fuel as I was working on a comic that was a bitter breakup comic about that ex-girlfriend.
Mm-hmm.
And hey, it got me through my first serious comic. So my first serious comic that I took really seriously and I wanted it to be really good, half the motivation of that was a middle finger. I'm not saying it's not for everyone. I don't know if it's the most sustainable fuel, but it can be a fuel. That's all I'm saying.
It's a starter.
Yeah.
To me, it makes me remember why I'm doing what I do, and enjoy what I enjoy, even though that there are days that it's just an utter pain in the ass.
Yeah.
So it's not that I'm actively looking for people who can say like I can't do this. It's just that there is a component to it that is just so well earned when you have utterly disproved the other person.
Yes. And you need.
Yeah.
I would recommend storing those people. Did I ever tell you guys the Ray Bradbury story from when I saw him speak?
No.
Oh, it's
You
so
kind
good.
of say it again.
I'll go through it again. It's so. I remember seeing Ray Bradbury do a talk once, and it was like one of the early Comic Cons before Comic Con was like a big thing, right?
Mhm.
And he was talking about how when he was working on Martian Chronicles, all these people were really critical of him writing this like like crappy fiction, basically. Because like a lot of science fiction was really looked down on at the time.
Mhm.
And he would be like, all right, here's the thing. He's like, at some point, we're going to actually put a human being on the moon. And he's like, and I'm going to write down your name and I'm going to give you a phone call when that happens. And I'm going to call you a son of a bitch. And they'd be like, oh, well, that's not going to happen. And he'd be like, okay, cool. Just give me your name and I'm just going to write it down. And he kept a black book of just people where he did that exactly. And he said the first time they put a man on the moon, he smiled, he cracked open a bottle of wine, and then he started making phone calls. And he called every name. Like he found the numbers of every single person on the list, called them. They'd answer the phone and he'd be like, you son of a bitch, and hang up. And I was like, that's pretty cool. So
That's an elaborate form of prank calling, but okay.
But if it worked for Ray Bradbury, if like Spike could drive Ray Bradbury, I figure, he's a pretty good writer, so it can work for. Yeah, it's a good story too.
Yeah.
He was really compelling. Like I should look and see if they have like any of his talks online, because he was one of the most interesting people just to hear talk.
Yeah, him and Harlan Ellison, they're really charming.
Yeah. I feel like a lot of good writers are very charming. Like Neil Gaiman is really interesting when you hear him just kind of riff and talk.
Yeah.
Alan Moore too is like fascinating. Like he's a really good storyteller, just like verbally.
Yeah, he's also like one of the cases where you feel like you're talking with a tree, but the tree is such an immense fucking force. Like, it's just the amount of like,
I like that. Yeah.
there is a reason why trees are like symbolized, or is sort of like a metaphor for like older knowledge.
Yeah.
And he is like human manifest of that
Yeah.
characterization. Like you feel like you're talking to an ent who have seen so much.
Yeah. I actually met Bradbury too. There was a theater in Los Angeles, and this was a friend of mine found out that he paid like the theater, like he funded this like local tiny little theater that put on these little productions. and then they put on like Ray Bradbury plays like that he wrote. And so we went to one just on the off chance because they were saying, oh, Bradbury actually comes to these things. And then I ended up meeting Bradbury. And he's like, at that point, this was far after I saw that talk, right? But he was in a wheelchair and he had like a full glass of wine, like the entire time. He was always drinking wine. But he had this older assistant who was kind of pushing him around. Who's about the same age as him, but I guess could still kind of walk and wheel him around and stuff. And yeah, he was just like full of vigor and like excited, and like his friend had to tell him to stop conversations with people because he was one of those guys who like he'd probably talk your ear off for like 10 hours, you know. Like it was really cool. But yeah, when he was talking, like he signed my copy of Dandelion Wine too. But it was like when he was talking, I definitely got that vibe of like there's just some like old wisdom here, you know, not like old like, oh, this is like out of touch, like old. It was like that. This is a guy who knows some things, you know. Yeah, I definitely think I love the when you mentioned tree, I instantly thought of like the Ents and like that kind of idea of like the ancient wisdom kind of thing, you know. It's interesting. I hope to get there at some point. Like, I think that would be fun to get there.
Yeah, but like the curse of that too is that you might be unapproachable.
Yeah. Well, I think Alan Moore has a little bit of that too. You know, right?
Yeah, and I mean in the sense that you'll be so utterly outcompeted by the age.
Yes.
In that, they might catch you. That's sort of like the weird part when you experience like at least with older intellectuals and all that stuff.
Yeah,
they tend to be so out there, like Russell Brand level of like unapproachable. That it's fearful. You could imagine what Oscar Wilde was like if he was like deep in old age.
Yeah,
it would be
so true.
it would be terrifying. So meeting these people, they will be I don't know. It's sort of like one of my fears in life is just ending up in the same room with a caliber like that.
Yeah. Oh, I definitely have that. Like I don't mind kind of like okay, so I'll get in discussions, right, with people, but I wouldn't think that if like trying to think oh my goodness, I'm trying to think the best of the guys. There was like one of the new atheists who passed away, and I'm blanking out on his name for some reason. And I'm a big fan. I think he's actually pretty awesome.
Hitchens?
Hitchens, thank you. So I feel like Hitchens is one of those guys, like, I don't know if I'd even bother trying to debate the guy. Because he's just on a different level. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like in order to do that discussion, you'd have to be like an Oxford guy. Like there's a different level of like thought, you know, not that I think like there's some sort of like capacity of thought is different, but I just mean like there are like levels to it, you know. Kind of like I'd have trouble. I mean, I honestly have a bit of that when we have David Chelsea on Artcasters. I definitely have a bit of reverence and intimidation talking to that guy. Because he's, you know, I mean, when it comes down to it, it's like he's written one of the most fundamental books for cartoonists, like known to cartoonists. So it's like, how do I talk to this guy who's like defined perspective better than any other living artist? But then you get in a conversation, you're like, oh, okay, he's just like a human who's cool and nice and likes art. But still, there is that in the back of my head with Chelsea. Even when I met him as like when I was a really young cartoonist, it was like totally green. I did feel that like there's a strange reverence to it, you know. Not a deification, but like a just like, you know, knowing where credit's due kind of thing. Where you're like, yeah, this person's on a different level, period, you know. But
I think one of like the great fears would probably be meeting Chris Ware.
I've met Chris Ware a long ago, but for like a second, I was like, "Hi, I like your work," and he's like, "Thanks."
Yeah, but getting into a deep conversation with him, I mean, like that would have been scary.
Oh yeah,
Just by reading like all these books
yeah,
around Ware,
yeah.
I've never touched a Ware like project or like anything that he's like interview or whatever. I've never seen a guy having this much outstretch of an influence as this dude, and how much he's like done for people, you know.
Yeah.
And when you see that, when you see he writes I think it was either a blurb or an introduction to a Japanese indie creator,
Yeah.
it speaks sort of like to the breadth of his like interests and his like variety of like engagement. And
so that's a tough one with Ware because you know, and this is I am sincerely convinced. I think Chris Ware is just a genius. Like, and I use that sparingly, you know, but it's like I think there are sometimes guys that are just legit genius, and I think he might be one of the few that's like an actual genius. So I would be intimidated as hell. Moore would be up there too. Moore's close. You know, but it's like, yeah, I mean, that's definitely intimidating, right? Because it's like, I don't know what I could talk to him about that wouldn't be, I don't know if I'd be able to comprehend it, you know. I don't know.
I'm just talking about comics or something.
Yeah, I mean, I'd probably go that route. I met Spiegelman a long time ago. That was super intimidating. I met him at my first, this is why it was equally more intimidating, because it was like my first comic show that I did, like the first convention. I had released Numb, and like this guy Jeff Mason was like nice enough to let me sit at the Alternative Comics booth because he was helping me distro it. And I'm sitting, I'm kind of, you know, sharing the booth with like some other cartoonists that are really well known and I didn't know at the time, so I didn't feel intimidated, you know. And then I turn around and it's like my chair is like the back of my chair, like the back of the chair facing the back of my chair is Art Spiegelman's chair. And I was like, what the hell? Like, he's just signing copies of Mouse with like this giant line. And I'm like, but we're like, like, what universe does that happen in? That was crazy. That was a cool thing. I didn't really talk to him about much either, except that just, you know, sometimes I think it's good enough to just be like, hey, your work meant a lot to me, you know. That's about, there's not much more I needed to talk to the dude about, you know. Although it'd be fun to have a long, that's the other catch, is it much like the Ents, it might be fun to have like coffee and talk for a while and just, you know, ask all the questions you want to ask about comics, you know. I like that. I'm going to borrow that, Jake. I like that description of somebody being a tree. I just think that's a really apt way of putting it, you know?
Yeah. Go ahead. I'm not trademarking that or anything.
Well, regardless, I'm stealing
it. Registry right now.
So that's open source.
Yeah, it's open source.
I love it.
As knowledge should be.
Do you have like a list of folks like that like are like your guys that you'd just be like? I mean, Ware would be one for me for sure too. Any others that come to mind? I'm sure there's a bunch if we think about it.
Tolkien.
Yeah, Tolkien would have been rad.
Not a big Lord of the Rings guy myself, but like from what I can observe from reverence and from like, you know, stuff, he would be there. Christopher Lee would be there. The actor.
I like it. So like half the cast of Lord of the Rings, basically.
No, just
Anything related to Lord of the Rings. I'm just joking, but yes, Christopher Lee would be cool.
yeah.
I feel like the younger Philip Seymour Hoffman before he died would have been really intimidating.
Yes.
That's a guy I think was like kind of on a different level.
He was. I don't know. When watching The Master now, it feels so. Wow. It's just a great movie.
What about you, Frank? Like, are there any folks?
Not anyone specific that I can think of top of my head, but I felt like that when I had Scott on the Taraku. Like even
Nice.
though I already knew Scott and been talking to Scott for a while, I've been on his Patreon and I've had conversations with him on Patreon live streams. Having him on as an actual guest, that was intimidating for me. And so it took me longer to ask him, and we even talked about it on the show. And he was like, "Oh, I thought you were never gonna ask. I was intimidated. I didn't think I should ask." And we had Dan Nikas on the show, and he was someone like that too, where I didn't really know him that well, but I will message him on like comments and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, Dan's a
I think
nice
Anna
dude.
was also following him too, and we just decided, like we wanted him on the show, and I think Anna was like, "Oh, we should probably like comment more on his videos." She was like coming up with these plans, and then like eventually I was like, "Wait, I added him on Facebook. I'm just gonna message him."
Yeah.
So, and we talked about on the show too. Like we kind of laughed at it. There's like we were intimidated, and then it's like, wait, he's just a person. So
I like the thing Jim said a while ago. He was talking about like this piece of advice he had gotten, where it was like do something, like do one or two things that make you really uncomfortable, like every day. And I think he was talking about like that email that you want to send where you're just like, oh, this will be intimidating. I don't know, like, you know, that editor you want to contact or whatever it is.
yeah,
Like, it is a cool idea. The idea of like intention, like just do one thing that kind of takes you out of your comfort zone every day. And that was like kind of how he's made a lot of his crazy contacts, you know, throughout the years. And I thought that was really cool. In fact, it's funny because I haven't applied that advice. I mean, I definitely do, and have done, like, you know, reached out to people that I didn't feel like I had a right to reach out to and stuff like that. But I forget that advice, and I need to remember it because I think it's pretty good.
I need to start doing that advice. I know. When I was in a Discord, someone mentioned like someone that worked with Steve Ditko, and I was like, oh, and like maybe I should ask him to be on the show. And someone else like, do you even know who they are? And I took that as like, don't talk to them but I was like, I'm gonna have them on the show. I don't know who they are, but I'm gonna have them on the show sooner or later. So that's something I put in the back of my head. It's like just because you told me I shouldn't.
So here's something funny about Los Angeles too. We did that meetup, right? And
Yeah.
we're all sitting in like Burbank, just having coffee and just talking about comics and stuff. And then this lady comes up to us. I wish I could remember. We'll have to ask Jim who it was. But this lady comes up to us and she's like, "Are you guys cartoonists?" And we're like, "Yeah." And then she goes, "Oh, well, my husband was sitting there and overheard you guys and was a little offended you didn't like notice him." And she was like, "Oh, it's like this animator." And it's like this giant in animation that, see, this is how little I know about animation. I don't remember who it was. But it was one of those people that like once dropped, like Jim was just instantly like, oh crap, like there's a documentary about this guy and you're in it. Like you're the wife of him. And like it was this crazy thing where just like one conversation in Burbank and you're talking to like a legend in animation just from like sitting at a cafe, just talking with other cartoonists and just being overheard. That's a really good example of like how weird Los Angeles is sometimes.
That's pretty nice.
I don't live in like downtown LA or Burbank or anywhere that's like, you know, that close. I'm like on the very outskirts of Los Angeles. So
Oh, cool. Tell us where exactly, Josh, on the live stream.
what's up?
Tell us where exactly on the live
Oh
stream.
yeah. Let me pinpoint it. I'll give you guys like the GPS data on it. And,
Great.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. Let me see. So my social security number is no. I'm just kidding.
I have that already.
Frank's like got that taken care of. And could you tell me the name of your first dog? Like, yeah, what was the street you grew up on? Just out of curiosity. You know, it is
made a name.
It is funny how like a lot of interviews do ask a lot of questions that would be like password security questions.
Yes.
Yeah.
That is a little disturbing.
Like just friends like so ask me on when I'm streaming and we're on during the chats. Oh, where are you from again, Frank? And I was like, I can't dox myself because like where I live, it's like there's not that many Franks, so you'll be able to like you'll be able to find me. So
yeah, in
like,
a small
I can't tell you where I
town.
live. Yeah.
Yeah, in a small town, I think that's pretty reasonable.
So I was like, I can't tell you.
Man,
Off screen, yes, but not like.
2 hours.
Someone.
We've hit that 2 hour mark, so I'm gonna disappear for a few seconds. So it's a good opportunity to let everybody know where to find your stuff and stuff. Adam, too. Make sure you let everybody know where to find your work. Toad Road.
Can you guys hear me all right, or is the static like unbearable?
I can hear you fine.
I can hear you fine.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm Adam. Adam Lore on YouTube. Check out my comic on indieplanet.com. Oh my gosh, look at Frank. I think I'm going to head out soon, though, because Josh said he wanted to leave in about an hour. I just want to make sure that... I last time I kept Josh way past the time that he was supposed to be trying to get some sleep, so... I just want to be clear. I just want to not do that ever again. But, Frank, where can
That's your goal.
Where can we find your stuff, Frank? And tell us about the upcoming Captain Goggles and Mask Woman comic.
You can actually find that on Etsy. You can go just look up Salazar Nation Comics, and you will find the first 2 mini issues plus a standalone story, Mask Woman's Field Journal. I have 11 copies of 11 sets left, and it's 3 comics per set. So you go check it out. It's just $5 a set. But even if you buy like 2 sets, you're still getting somewhat original art because each set comes with cards and each card is hand colored. So you'll get like a different colored version of a card. But yeah, if you just want to get the digital comics, you can go to my Gumroad. And there's a link in any one of my videos, so you can just get all the digital comics there and see what they're about. Pretty soon there will be a like ash can size of the Captain Goggles Mask Woman mini comics up on my Etsy. I am finishing up coloring those pages at this moment, so that should be. I want to get that into printing pretty soon. So.
Hell yeah.
I'm almost done with another page, and I finished a page before. So.
Cool. And did Jake get to kind of let everybody know where to find a bone meal?
Nah, that can wait.
Okay. Well, I don't mind if you drop it, but then again, we've got a good like 40 minutes till I gotta bail.
Yeah.
I appreciate you guys hanging out though, because I'm like, I was initially thinking I'd get one panel done, and then I think the fun part about doing streams with other people is the fact that you get more done than you realize. I don't know. I've noticed that.
I'm actually almost done with with all the pages. So
Yeah, it's like hanging out in a studio, which is cool. So Adam, I'm thinking about directions, like more conscious directions for my channel, and I kind of floated these ideas to. I think I talked to you a bit about it too, but I was talking to Jake and Frank about it, like at the beginning of this thing, where like I'm sort of like thinking that it'd be fun to like more consciously, like occasionally maybe do a debate, and then but like with artists, where it's like straight up like you have to be drawing when you do it, kind of like we talked about the last time.
Yeah, I think we have invented the drawing debate. Like that's part of the challenge. Is you have
Yeah.
like I'm sitting here taking notes and you're drawing your comic. Like I lose because I stopped drawing my comic.
So I think that might be fun for content. And then another thing I'm thinking about is I want to have artists on, like maybe reach out to some artists I know and stuff and have them talk about like their journeys with like mental health stuff too, which I think would be really cool. Cause like it also is topical for like what I do. Cause I make a comic that talks really openly about that stuff. And I just think like because we're all artists, like it might be kind of cool to like have different guests on and stuff that like just talk about like what their strategies are for like kind of dealing with being an artist in the world. I think that's I don't know. Anyhow, so those are like two things that I'm thinking about consciously trying to do. But I do like the idea of like occasionally like having a knockdown, drag out like debate while drawing.
Cool. Yeah, I think the mental health thing is a good idea. Like, do you see those as kind of two similar related things or kind of two separate things?
So that's what I was talking about with like Frank and Jake. It's like I think I kind of think they actually sort of. I think you end up with like similar discussions in both actually, because I think a lot of debate like ends up being conflicts about like ethical frameworks. Like at the end of the day, like it's usually that's like the big divide that that like people might have different ethical frameworks, and then that causes them to kind of come to different conclusions, right? And I think like a lot of like mental health stuff and like just the way people process and like work through the world and stuff like have a lot to do with ethical frameworks too. So I don't know. I think it's interconnected, but I don't know. It's something I think
definitely.
yeah,
I think
go
it'd be
ahead.
cool.
Yeah. Okay.
Like it sounds like you're still kind of formulating the idea on it though, but I feel like I don't know. I mean, we've kind of been having some discussions that are sort of setting the stage for some kind of more structured thing. I think you've been saying.
Yeah, possibly. It's just
And
a
just
thought.
I mean, the live streams that you've been doing, kind of, I like the format that you kind of established. Is that for as long as I remember, you have over 100 episodes of this. It's always been more like obviously we talk about art and format and inspiration from time to time, but a lot of times it just gets into whatever topic artists happen to be thinking about while they're working on art. You know what I mean? So it's like I like that is sort of what you have been doing this whole time pretty much. Not that it's to get away from art, but it's just this is the life of an artist, this is the mind of an artist.
Yeah.
And I think that that may be a more structured format where you think it out a little more structured.
Yeah, like I don't think it's like about like kind of like I still want to just do the live streams for sure. Like that's what we're doing now, But it's like I feel like it might be
so that would be like a separate thing, like you would announce a separate artist debate or whatever.
Well, no, it'd be like a live stream, but it's just like beforehand, like on the stream, it'd be like, okay, this is gonna be like that, but it's also a debate stream or whatever, or this will be like.
And
this
this would be like
conversation, it could
art
still go.
debates. Like, would it be a debate about digital versus traditional or something, or would it be
No,
like
no, I think it would. I think it should be
like science and philosophy and stuff?
yeah, I think it should be like just totally different topics and stuff.
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
if it's art debates, I think, I don't know. I've been thinking about that as like just a potential thing to be a little more proactive about approaching as like
Yeah.
those two things. Although I still think like obviously the stream can still divert to those things and stuff. And inevitably, just being who I am, it's like I was saying that too at the beginning, where it's like I inevitably kind of end up in those things anyway. So it's like, but it's just a thought of like maybe making more of an effort to like proactively like try to kind of at least like start off a stream like that. I think it would be funny because it's like, like I don't know, even people like, I was talking to Frank about how I admire his ability. Like I actually think Frank's a really intelligent dude, and Frank just is really smart about like actually like dodging conflict and not in like a cowardly way, like in a really intelligent, like empathetic, um, I think like way that I envy a little bit. Like I think Frank is very smart about his interactions with people, and I
Sure,
admire
yeah.
it.
I
And
think
so I was
also,
saying like, but
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Even Frank could have fun with that if he like knew going in. It's
Right,
like, hey,
right.
Frank, you and me, we're going to talk about, or like you and Jake are going to talk about this issue if you want to, or you could pick something, where it's like something he's really passionate about. Like Frank could be like, I think might want to kind of dip into it too. So it's like one of those things of like just a thought, but it was something I was thinking about.
Well, I think another thing about that would be awesome is it's more delineated that this would be a structured time for debate, and if that's what you want to hear, then you'll tune in. Whereas I feel like some people are kind of put off by
Yeah.
if we start arguing with each other for 2 hours about
Yeah.
dinosaur feathers or objective, subjective. Like it's just very off-putting to a lot of people.
Yeah.
But I think some people, like I don't know. I think there's I think announcing it as that is the format, I think would just make things more straightforward for people of what to expect.
Yeah, I agree. And the only downside is like the one thing is like there'd have to be some like ground rules, like no prep or something. I don't know. I'd want some ground rules that keep it still like functional as like a stream where everybody gets art done at the end of the day.
Well, I think
Yeah.
a good ground rule will be if you feel yourself getting too agitated, just take a break.
Yeah, exactly. I agree.
And
I like that, and I think like maybe I don't know. I had to think through it, because I'm like I think even like possibly a moderator or something might be interesting, but I wouldn't
we'll
want to
get Brett
formalize
Keen.
it.
No,
Jeez.
no, no.
I hear he's a good moderator. No controversies.
No, that's true. A very objective source, known for their objective rationality, right? We're not misreading that at all.
Well, I think with the community that we have in this side of art stuff, I think
Yeah.
that it would like we can have discussions and still get along at the end. Whereas a
Yeah.
lot of communities
Yeah.
you see, they become very bitter and vicious and just every day they're making videos attacking people, really, really hateful, mean stuff. Like it becomes
Yeah.
this very polarized us versus them in group thing,
Yeah.
And I feel like I don't know. I feel like for at least most people I can think of that might participate in something like this that we know,
Yeah.
it would be like we'll be friends at the end of the discussion. Like it's
Yeah.
not gonna
Yeah,
be
for sure.
so much drama and conflict, or even if it is, it's sort of okay. We
Fun.
kind of resolve it or move past. It would not. It's
Yeah.
not an emphasis on that,
Yeah.
Yeah. I think even if it did come to a point just the way that we are, it'll be brought up again, and that's where it'll get a bit more resolved.
Yeah.
I think a good rule of thumb for debates, though, is no ad hominem attacks, like no personal attacks,
Right.
basically.
Yeah.
Okay,
Or,
I was gonna say, so what is ad hominem? Because I keep hearing that.
So an ad hom is like, it's tough because all debates eventually have ad homs, even formal ones. So
Yeah.
at the end of the day, people sneak in ad homs. Like even if you have a rule of no ad homs, like inevitably ad homs happen because people are passionate, right, about their thing. But an ad hom would be like, so like Frank, you and I are arguing. Let's bring the apples and oranges from like our last one, right?
Yeah.
And then I just get so mad at like your apples and oranges thing that I'm just like, well, only a stupid person would like an orange or something. You know what I mean? Like, and then it's
Okay,
like,
yeah.
it's not, you're not like, so an ad hom is an insult that's not making a point. Like, it's just kind of a pointless dig to try to gain points in a debate. So it's like, but the tough part with ad homs is like, you can also make a point in a debate that sounds like an ad hom, but it's actually just a point in the debate. So it's like it's a slippery line, and people are really slick with debate tend to like sneak them in anyway. So like,
Another thing about ad
but it
homs
is
is
a good ground rule to
it's
like
also a
not.
logical fallacy. Like just
Yeah.
basically, you hear ad hominem like as used two different ways. One is just any kind of personal attack
Yeah.
is an ad hominem attack, but as a fallacy, it's like if you go back to the apples and oranges things.
Yeah.
Like, oh, Tom works for an apple company. He sells red delicious apples, so of course he's going to try to convince you that those are the best, even if it's not true. Like that, you know what I mean? It's because it's a personal thing, or like, oh, that person has legal issues, therefore we can't trust anything he says about
Well, those are
biology.
different.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, those are different fallacies. But yeah, that's definitely. I think fallacies in general are problematic. Like you got your appeal to authority. You have like I'm trying to think of the one that's
Straw man argument.
well, straw man is like straw man would be like, so Frank, you're like straw man's brought up all the time. It's misused a lot,
Mm-hmm.
but a good use of straw man is when it's also used a lot. Like people actually use straw man arguments all the time. Like you'll hear it a lot in politics, especially. But it'll be like, Frank, if you were like saying, well, oranges, are like a citrus fruit, and it's like really healthy and like helps you with like whatever. You make a point that's a valid point, and then I go, well, I mean, that's absurd that you would claim that oranges cure cancer. And you're like, I never said oranges cure. And then I proceed to disprove like your claim that oranges cure cancer when you never were claiming it. Like that's the straw man, where it's like you're building a fake argument that's not the argument that the person was actually making, because it's easier to defeat. And that's used a lot in that's used a crap load in debate. It's actually infuriating. So like, a good example, like I brought it up with Jeff Keane because when I was talking to him, he tried to change
Brett Keane.
or Brett Keane, and I always say Jeff Keane because of a Family Circus creator. I was trying to realize what it was that was sticking Jeff in my head. It's because there's a famous cartoonist with the last name Keane.
Wasn't that Bill King?
Well, no, Jeff Keene's his kid, but Bill Keene's is the parent. But Jeff Keene's a member of the NCS and stuff, so that's why I kept thinking
Okay,
Jeff.
yeah.
Anyhow, I think he inherited the comic after his father.
I
But
was
anyhow.
reading an old strip of, because I like Family Circus too, so I was reading an old strip that I looked up. Anyways, you can continue. I mean to interrupt.
Well, it's not a big deal. It's just like like, so when I was talking to Brett, like he used a straw man on me by trying to say that I was like, so I was telling him like, hey, I kind of don't want to just hear you like read a list of like facts from Wikipedia, because like I don't have access to the internet right now. I'm just trying to have a conversation about ideas and like our conflict with ideas, and like facts are good, but like if you're just going to read a litany of facts, like it's just kind of hard to debate with. Like at that point we should just be reading facts to each other. Like, and then he strawmanned that by saying I was telling him you can't bring facts to a debate. And I was like, no, I'm drawing I just can't look at your list of things. And also anytime he would bring up like 10 points, I'd try to address one of them. And then he just jumped to like 10 more points. And I'm like, well, at least
Ish galloping.
yeah, exactly. And at least engage with the one criticism of one of the points, because if you can't do that, then we're not having a debate. We're just having a reading session. Right.
Yeah.
But it was interesting because he tried to reframe it. And then even in his attack video, because I called him on it when he was doing it. I was like, well, that's a good straw man. That's like easy to defeat. Right. But that's not what I'm saying. Like, I mean, of course, like if somebody was saying you can't bring facts to a debate, that would be an absurd thing to say to somebody. So yeah, I mean, that's an easy argument to defeat, right? Is like if somebody's claiming that, but then nobody was claiming that, but he was like burning that straw man. And I was like, I had a feeling he was going to use it for something. And then it was surprising because yeah, he definitely did like that attack video where he basically said like, well, then we were having a conversation and he said, you can't bring facts to this. And I was like, oh, there it is. There's the straw man. But there's a purpose for it, right? It's a tactical purpose because it's like if you can convince somebody that the person you're arguing with is arguing a different point that's easier to dismantle, then you get an optical win without actually engaging in the debate, right?
Yeah.
So there's a whole bunch of them. There's a whole bunch of like logical fallacies, you know. Argument from authority is interesting though, because that gets misused a lot. It's not that you can't use authority in argument. It's just that like just because someone's a PhD doesn't mean what they're saying is correct. But that doesn't disprove the power of authority in argument. So it's kind of a weird thing. But like the fallacy of the argument from authority would be like, Bob's a professor. Of course he's going to say this. And like, oh, because they're a professor, we should trust what they're saying, right?
Yeah.
But if we're having a discussion about like DNA, then like if we were to bring up like Francis Collins or something like that, that's not an argument from authority. That's the guy who decoded the human genome. So he's going to be important in that conversation, right? I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, there is such a thing as a valid argument from authority that's not a fallacy, but it's basically like, well, Josh wrote the comic book. I think that he's going to know. You know what I mean? Like if we're talking about your comic book and you wrote it and you're claiming that you did this or you did that, it's like, yeah, that's an authority about the comic book. That doesn't mean that you can take that outside of the realm of, therefore, Francis Collins is right about everything in the universe. Like, but so the argument, if it's about the Genome Project, like it's a pretty good source of evidence because he worked on the project.
Yes, exactly. But if
about that author though is that people undermine that authority even still.
Yeah. Oh, totally. And they'll still they'll call it all like, so there's the fallacy of fallacies too, which is hilarious. But that's the one where you're calling everything a fallacy. So it's like for instance, you can't bring any authority in your conversation.
Everything's like, a phallus?
Oh, there's the phallus fallacy for sure. That exists in most art history classes.
Yes.
I'm joking, but not really.
No, there is
pretty much any art history class. If they don't bring up something being phallic, it's not an art history class. And I know that because I learned that from a really expert art history teacher. And they would know because they're an authority.
What a way
yeah, it's funny. The fallacies are it's tough too because you kind of like the more you get engaged with people, like you kind of know in your gut when you're hearing a fallacy. It's just hard to remember all of them. But it's like if you can kind of like read through at least what they are, like you can kind of feel them when you hear them. They'll be like, oh wait, that's not. You know, it's an interesting thing. But I also feel like a lot of people when they're discussing stuff, they'll kind of use like too big of words and they kind of cloud the field a little bit sometimes with that too. Anyhow, rambling. You guys, I've finished my second panel. So
good job.
I think we might have to call it. So why don't everybody let people know where they can find the work and all that fun stuff? And also, thanks to anybody who's been watching this. And yeah. Frank, where can everybody find your work?
Well, you can find me on Salazar Art Nation on YouTube and on Instagram. And if you go on my profile, there is a link to my link tree, and that will take you to my Etsy store, my Gumroad store. I also have a Teespring store. So if you go anywhere on those and you purchase something, you'll be supporting me and helping me, print the comic that I'm working on. So, and that's how you can help support me. And check out my videos on YouTube. Sometimes I talk about stuff.
I love it.
Adam.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. You guys should support Frank, and if you don't, you're stupid. I'm gonna just ad hom you guys till you buy from Frank. Adam, where can everybody find your work and all that fun stuff?
Yeah, just go to YouTube is where I'm most active. Adam Lore is my name. Actually, you guys spell it. I should tell people if sometimes people have a hard. That's funny. I was trying to find a comic, but it wasn't right here. Thank you, you guys. There's my comic that they're holding up, Toad Road Comics, which you can get at indieplanet.com with the highest prices in the world and the longest waiting time of all time. So no one wants to actually buy the damn thing. But working on number 2 here. Not too long, but yeah, check out my channel at Adam Lore at YouTube is where I'm doing most of this stuff.
Yeah, a lot of fun, and actually, I do want us to continue our conversation too on a future stream. We'll have to start it a little earlier.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, yeah,
sure.
But that'd be fun to kind of maybe pursue that debate a little more.
Sure.
And then Jake, although I will say, if you guys are curious to hear me and Adam tear it up, listen to the last stream. It was fun. Jake, where can everybody check out your work and all that fun
You
stuff?
can follow my attempt at terrorism through comics by visiting newground.com at J Twister. That's a V, not a W. You can also find my Twitter handle where I commit even more atrocities and more crimes.
I love it. You're ad homing yourself. Yeah, and Jake, my favorite pitch of yours is still calling it a wonderful Kinder egg.
Oh, an existential Kinder egg.
An existential Kinder egg. That's a great. Anyhow, yeah, make sure you guys are following Jake's stuff, and I will see you guys. I almost forgot to plug my own stuff. Let's see. Ooh, did I cut out?
No.
Okay, good. Okay, so 2 stories. My graphic novel about faith and mental illness. You can get that on Amazon right now for a really reduced rate. And then if you want indie comics to be produced more and carried in bookstores, go to your local bookstore and ask them to carry Jacob's Apartment. It's available everywhere. So you can go to your Barnes and Noble or whatever large chain bookstore or small bookstore or indie friendly bookstore, wherever they should be able to carry this. So go tell them this is a good book. Have it on your shelves. Jacob's Apartment. All right. With that being said, I will see you guys on the next stream. Bye.
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 Hold on.